The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Maynard Bangs presiding. Your eyes for the Honorable Judge Bangs.
Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we are hearing the case of The People vs. Vegas Vacation, a 1997 comedy that follows the misadventures of the Griswold family as they take in the sights and sounds of Sin City. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, you are representing the prosecution. You may present your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. This movie is a fascinating cultural relic as we can see the implosion of Chevy Chase's career on the screen. It would really not be until Community that he recovered, and even then he would still go on to blow it. Absolutely fascinating. The Vacation franchise is a beloved American institution, and it's really anchored by the heft people give Christmas Vacation. My apologies to Big Ben. So now with the National Lampoon stripped from this chase vehicle, what are we really left with? In this case, we're going to look at Chevy Chase's character and performance as he is the face of the franchise. We will also look at what could be called the story here, if the lesson, question mark. And we will discuss the feel and look of this movie, which, believe it or not, I'm under oath, so you know this is true. This was made in the late 90s.
Wow.
So let us all take a long road trip of legal discovery in this courtroom today and ultimately arrive at our destination, guilty.
Thank you, Mr. Schlender. Appearing on behalf of the defense is Mr. Brian Levine. Please present your opening statement.
Well, let me first start off with it's nice to hang out at the kids' table, being a grown-up here. And
appreciate it.
And let me first say that Chevy Chase's career did not implode with this fine movie. And this fine movie is not actually a comedy. It is actually a documentary expose of a Midwest family's trip to Las Vegas and them being exposed to the 7 deadly sins. Therefore, this is of Greek tragedy. It is it's a traveler's tale, and it's a story that I witnessed all far too many times, having lived in Las Vegas and worked in Las Vegas in the 1990s, while most of you were yet still released from the scrotums of your parents. So thank you very much.
Might have even happened in Las Vegas. But thank you, Mr. Levine. Shoot for the moon. You may land among the stars. Mr. Schlender, you may present your first exhibit.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. So, it is not hard to tie so much of this movie, and indeed this franchise, to the man Chevy Chase. I think we can only... it will be hard to do that then.
No specific grounds. I just object.
Overruled then.
Damn it.
Well, it's good for you if it's overruled.
Well, I know, but... Okay, so... I lost my place.
That's the reason I did that.
Oh, God, he got me. All right. So let's face it. Chase has a spotty record of comedy. He was one of the weaker parts of Caddyshack, but he was hilarious in other ventures like The Three Amigos or Funny Farm. The jury's still out on Fletch. So I read an amazing interview that the Washington Post did with Chase in 2018. And the man is incredibly aware of his own deficiencies, And we get to see what is absolutely striking when you read this interview is everything he's talking about himself and his flaws, you see in this movie. Chase, like Mr. Griswold, is brash, abrasive, and largely uncaring of anyone that is not himself. These character and actor flaws led to the grating performance that we saw at the dam, for example, the blackjack table, and nearly every other scene that has Chase front and center. In the interview, Chase laments but does not apologize for any of his ignominious behavior over his career in a remarkably Griswoldian fashion. We never really see Clark Griswold learn or develop in this movie. So it's a rare thing to see someone be so fully themselves in a role, and not surprisingly, given the flawed nature of the man, it leads this to not only being a bad performance, but a bad movie.
Mr. Levine, Chevy Chase, man or monster?
I would like to refer back to the beginnings of young Cornelius Chase, which is his real name, and his beginnings in Saturday Night Live, and his beginnings in actual, real physical humor. And I would like to once again remind, as my opening argument stated, that this is not a comedy. This is a documentary of what happens to real families. And therefore, he was exposing the raw and painful truths of what happens to some people when they decide to take a Vegas vacation. And as the prosecutor noticed, it actually worked. So therefore, everything he said was bullshit. Thank you.
Mr. Schlender, is this a cautionary tale?
Actually, I was going to get into that in my next exhibit anyway, so this dovetails perfectly. Because
you're welcome.
Yeah, well, what can I say? Stemming largely from Chase's performance, that is what makes us consider the story, just like Brian was saying. So we have seen the Griswolds before, be it them traveling to Europe or going to a theme park, or for their aforementioned Christmas vacation. So we kind of know the formula. However, as we are wont to do in Reels of Justice, we are free to consider this film in a vacuum, independent of the predecessors it is trying to ape. So in the vacuum, we are seeing a strained family full of stress meander through Vegas. I would like to tip my hat to Rusty, as he actually gets a semblance of a story that has potential to be charming, but all Rusty's story really does is highlight how bad the rest of the beats are, which includes, but is not limited to, a happily married Wayne Newton playing a womanizing cad, the Hoover Dam vignette that is as unnecessarily long as it is unfunny, Randy Quaid's bombastic family that adds no humor or depth, and the sleaziness of Audrey and cousin Vicky's story. Honestly, they're just there to be ogled, and that is distasteful in the extreme, despite Mr. Bangs' enthusiasm.
No, it offended me as well.
I object to that. I find all the women in this movie to be absolutely perfectly wonderful to be ogled at, and thus part of the enjoyment of the fine cinematic flick.
No, sustained. He's sorry.
I pulled the wrong judge for this argument. I'm going to keep barreling forward, though. But the point about that is yes, the women in this, they're very attractive. That's fine. But the only thing Audrey is being allowed to do is to kind of just be in this dancer, sleazy mode. She doesn't actually get to do anything interesting like Rusty does. Actually, no one gets to do anything interesting like Rusty does. So let's go back, though, to Chevy Chase, to Clark. What is he actually doing? He's feuding with Wallace Shawn and losing all of his money? I mean, to what end? Because when we do get to the end of the movie, the family reunites, it feels so unearned. They emerge basically unscathed, and they literally drive off into the sunset, or maybe the sunrise. They would have to be going back east. But it really is the perfect way for this movie to end. Chevy Chase driving off into one last big payday.
I would like to interject that Wallace has one of the best lines in the movie of, why don't you just give me half your money? I'll meet you out back, kick you in the nuts, and we'll go on about it.
Sustained. But Mr. Schlender, when you're saying the ending is, you said it was unearned. Could you elaborate more on that?
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, the different vignettes that we see happen in the movie, basically the family breaks apart, so they're not even all together. And obviously, that's supposed to be one of the plot beats: is how does the family get together? How do they reunite again? But the fact of the matter is, they are all happier on their own, and they don't want to be dealing with each other. And when they all get back together, it is just maybe out of a sense of familial obligation, like because eventually they do have to get back home. They have to work together to figure out a plan. It's not particularly clear because they're given a winning Keno ticket. They're given 4 cars to drive away. So they don't really come out knowing anything more about themselves, which is not necessarily a problem. I know Ryan is always quick to point out that you don't necessarily need character growth or development in a movie for it to be good. But this idea of the family going to Vegas to bond and get closer, and then not to have any elements that would suggest they are bonding or getting closer, and then at the end to say, and yes, we have bonded and gotten closer. Yeah, that's what's unearned about it, Your Honor.
My question for you, if I may interject, which I'm going to anyway because I got a big microphone.
We all do, but go ahead.
My question to you is, how much personal growth do you think really happens in a 3-day weekend in Vegas anyway?
Well, Griswold was hoping for some. That's why they wanted to go to Vegas. That's why, that's the kind of the impetus behind all these vacation movies, is that they're going to go to places as a family and do things as a family. So it's the movie putting this out there, not me. I'm just saying the movie failed to deliver on what it
Question from
promised.
the bench, Mr. Levine, are you saying that you don't think the family unit goes through personal growth?
I think the family unit leaves and then does what they do in all the other vacation movies, has trauma, tragedy, and funny things, and then comes back together again. But no.
Could you elaborate further on how or why they come back together again?
Well, they do, as in most in most family or any age trips to particularly Las Vegas, because see, I believe the reason they took National Lampoon's name off of this movie was because this is a Vegas vacation, and this is an entire love letter to the city of Las Vegas in 1996 and 97 when this was filmed. And therefore, it's just to see what happens to them and see the outrageousness that occurs, and then how they leave on the plane together. And then at the end, they all come back together and everything's okay. And they go back home together with 4 new cars that he accidentally won. But yeah, so I forgot what your question was, but I just figured I'd talk about it. It would sound great.
Well, I'm going to send it back to Mr. Schlender.
Well, actually, so you've raised an interesting point, because you point out how these kind of movies have that formula. And what actually was really striking about Vegas Vacation in comparison to the other vacation films is actually how toned down it is, and how seemingly plausible some of these things are. Ridiculous, sure. Like the Hoover Dam sequence was just dreadful, but the idea of Beverly D'Angelo being seduced by an entertainer, the fact that it was, why is his name escaping me? I want to say Newton.
Wayne Newton, sir.
Wayne Newton. The fact that it
some
was
respect on his name in my courtroom.
Yes, Your Honor. Well, we all know that Beverly D'Angelo and Wayne Newton is the judge's OTP, but I digress. So we see these things that are all kind of plausible, but they're not particularly funny or engaging like we've seen in other vacation movies, like even in European Vacation, which is a very grating movie in its own right. Just being stuck in the traffic circle, like that feels more, that's like a funnier thing to happen than what we see at the Hoover Dam, for example, and it's executed much better.
Mr. Levine, where's the funny?
The funny is in the reality. The funny is in the moments of actual Vegasness. For example, I draw your attention to, in this case, the Griswolds kind of step back, and Las Vegas becomes the star of the show when the front desk clerk which I've seen this before, and I know people that have done this before, gives oddly bizarre directions of how to get from the front desk all the way through the casino, past the different types of games and past the palm trees and around the first set of elevators to the second set of elevators. And then you have to take another left and another right just to get through a Las Vegas hotel in order to get to the hotel elevators. So you have that situation. And then you also have the situation where the maitre d' is being tipped as they're getting ready to go and sit in, as they're entering the Wayne Newton Theater. And Chevy Chase's character pulls out pockets full of nickels and tries to tip the maitre d'. These are actual Las Vegas style or Las Vegas types of situations that would happen with tourists that want to, want to experience Las Vegas. So it's the reality of the city of Las Vegas and the ignorance of the Midwest cornbread, meat and potatoes Chicago family.
Actually, Your Honor, in the interest of fairness and discovery, in my research, apparently the directions that the front desk lady gives the Griswold are the real directions for that casino. Like what she said, that's actually is how you have to get to your room. So that actually was a neat little nugget. But one good nugget does not a good movie make. I only have 1 point left.
How many nuggets do we need? Yes, please proceed.
Yes, thank you. All right, my last point, and again, we're kind of framing all of this through Chase, his character, his career, and one of the things about this movie coming out in 97, though, it just feels old. It already feels like a relic, and not in a good nostalgic way.
Schlender.
Well, okay, let me explain, because see, the late 90s. We were seeing some really elevated comedy. I would say typified basically by movies like As Good as It Gets and The Birdcage. And I'm not saying we should compare these features to Vegas Vacation. That wouldn't be fair. But for none of the nuance of the late 90s to rub off on this film, it is just so sad. And it's doubly sad when you consider it was not written or handled by Hughes the way the other films were. So there was a chance to maybe do something a little different with this series, give it some growth, give it some depth, try something new. But instead we get a rehash of so many vacation movies we have seen before. And one of the reasons this film is guilty is that it just does not look to do anything new and exciting. We are bored because we have seen this before. Even if we have not seen it before, i.e. taking in the context of this being a vacuum, at the time, we have to remember the other movies being made. It was being filmed the same time Mars Attacks was being filmed. You just can't go any more polarizing apart for your comedies than that. So as a vacation movie, it fails. As a late 90s comedy, it fails. And of course, as a Chevy Chase vehicle, well, it actually may be one of the best things he's done in his loathsome character career. So that's maybe the best that he can hope for. But it is still guilty. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Schlender. Mr. Levine, you may present your first exhibit.
Well, I bring to you, I have here a pile of notes, having just recently reviewed the fine cinematic film. And I'd like to start off with the fact that I again state that this is a journey. It's an expose of what transcends and happens to a normal family when they go to Las Vegas. Yes, it is 1996 and 1997. And the reason it's 1996 and 97 is because this is one of the rare movies in Las Vegas that was actually given full run of use of the casinos to film in. Why was that? Well, I will say, it might have been put on in cooperation with the city of Las Vegas and some of the casinos there, but that benefit allows you to see what Las Vegas really was like. In fact, what Las Vegas really was like in the final scene where they're in the Keno room, the lady calling the Keno numbers, and I can't remember her name right now, but that's because I'm old enough to have lived in the 1990s and been a married person with children in the 1990s. And I don't feel dated at all yet, although it is getting past my bedtime. I will say that lady she shared an office. Well, her office was right next to mine when we were getting ready to open the MGM Grand as managers. And she was the actual Keno manager at the MGM Grand. I did a little bit of deep digging, and they actually did cast some Las Vegas employees in Las Vegas in small bits and parts in the other part of this movie. Therefore, I would like to state, and I'll back this up with a few more details. This is not the greatest of the National Lampoon's vacation movies, because the original one was just so fresh and so new. But this is the best movie of Las Vegas ever produced because of the reality of, again, I state, using the Mirage, using the MGM Grand, being inside the now gone Riviera, and using actual places, including the wedding chapel at the end. The wedding chapel at the end was the actual wedding chapel where Beverly D'Angelo got married, and producer and actor in the movie, Jerry Weintraub, also got married in that building. So they're using these actual places.
Beverly D'Angelo actually got married in there?
Yeah, she got married in there in
Great.
1981.
What do you got for that, Schlenzo?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're talking real here. I would also like to state that it is true that what happens to families or people as they get on a plane to go to Las Vegas, and this movie portrays that by the Griswolds wanting to become members of the Mile High Club and attempting that. What happens?
You explain that briefly for the court?
Your Honor, so
I've never been invited to join, so please go into depth.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to put the veto on that now that I've heard this. You just continue, Mr. Levine. We all know what the club is.
Well, no, I will explain it in sensitive, modern, woke. What do you call it, young kids?
Vernacular.
Yes, I'll keep
jargon, slang.
Yes, I'll keep it PG. So what I've witnessed over time of going back to Las Vegas 2 or 3 times a year for trade shows or for vacations in the last 20 something years after living there is that when you get on an airplane, say in the lovely state of North Carolina, where, home of Billy Graham and the Bible Belt, you get on the airplane and something happens to people. All of a sudden, all the shimmery tight clothes come out as they're on the airplane. So they transition into Vegas mode once they get on that airplane that says Las Vegas destination, right? Now, this Mile High Club is a club of any partnering couple. Notice I said partnering couple. That's modern. Any partnering couple that might want to consummate their couple relationship in the air at altitude.
It's got to be challenging.
And this movie finally depicts what happens to people the minute they think they're going to Vegas, and the husband and wife want to meet in the very tiny lavatory and try to become members of this Mile High Club that Clark heard about at work. Now, that's pre-internet, so that's how you used to learn things, was you'd hear discussions at work. You'd go to places like a bar and you'd hear somebody talking about it. I'd like to also state that the beginning montage going through Las Vegas is when they're in the limo. It's a wonderful example of what old Las Vegas used to look like, with the beautiful big neon signs and all the flashing lights and everything. And now everything has changed where it's all glass and muted and metal. Let's see. What were some of my other notes in here that I want to just,
I don't know, Mr. Levine.
Let's talk about how the movie is a perfect sampling of everything that does go on in Vegas. because it does have the big magic show with Siegfried and Roy, and that was before the tiger ate Roy, so Roy looked good.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Yeah. Now they're really old now because they were old back when I was there.
They're really dead now, sir.
Yes. We do get, and this is a rare glimpse into the beautiful natural surroundings of the desert when you get to go out to Cousin Eddie, who lives, on the former nuclear test site right on the edge of Area 51. And this is all real stuff. I mean, this is real Las Vegas. And you don't get to see this real Las Vegas in other movies, do you? No, you don't. And then, of course, there's all the damn jokes with the damn tour and the damn guide and the damn experience. And you can go do that. And these tour guides do all this damn stuff. Now, I will say, in all vacation movie styles, there is some, outrageous thing. And, you can go back through each of them, squirrel in the Christmas tree, and then the Christmas tree burns up, and then, all that stuff. Do not don't go out the door and end up climbing up the telephone pole and swinging across that. Okay. It features the wonderful classic pool scenes of the Mirage and shows where the dolphin exhibit was. It shows it shows how
time capsule.
Yeah, it's a time capsule, and it's a love letter to all that Vegas is. You get Wayne Newton, you get the great dining, you get the sleazy side of Las Vegas when you go to the buffet and Cousin Eddie says, yeah, I'll have some of the yellow stuff. You don't know what it is. You just order it by color, right? And that was...
question from the bench. Would you like to defend that gross out humor in that scene?
There's nothing wrong with that. That's not
humor. I love yellow. That's not gross.
There is nothing wrong with that style of Las Vegas buffet because they actually used to have them, and they still may. When Rusty gets upgraded to one of those lanai suites, that's a rare look into a set of suites that were built at the Mirage just for Michael Jackson.
Oh,
cool!
And that's
stories it must be able to tell.
Yes, that's actually one of those suites. When you go into the locals casino, this is 1997, and they have Casino War. They have Guess the Number. They have all, the coin toss game. They have all these stupid games. 10 years later, Casino War is on the strip and on a table. So it's foretelling. It shows it's a wonderful expose on the city. And yes, Audrey gets a little slutty, and Rusty ends up in a hot tub full of 12 hot women and wins 4 cars. And Beverly D'Angelo, and, she gets seduced by Wayne Newton, who is happily married at the time. And, and Clark ends up digging in the desert for money buried in coffee cans by Cousin Eddie. And, so it's got some humor. But the humor is in the realness of it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Schlender, any questions before we rest and we go?
Well, I guess I would just say, to kind of redirect the main thrust of Brian's argument about the realness of Vegas. I mean, it's fine that you want to do a love letter to Vegas, but we have a movie like Ocean's 13, which I think delivers on that a bit better, and we get Frank Sinatra instead of Chevy Chase. So I'll leave it at that.
11.
Well, let's get it correct. 11. Then Ocean's 11 was the one with Frank Sinatra. That was 1960s.
You're right. It was Ocean's 11. What did I say?
You said 13. It's not his fault.
Did
he's dyslexic. Can't get hard on him.
I just
when life gives you melons.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All sides have rested their cases. So the attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Mr. Schlender, you may begin.
All right, Ben, this one's for you. Boring movie, gonna make my eyes feel tired. Got a whole lot of bad jokes to make your stomach turn so lame and uninspired. There's Chevy Chase sleepwalking in there. I can't believe he got paid, he has no flair. And I'm just a lawyer singing with great hair. So guilty, Las Vegas. Guilty, Las Vegas. All right, that best closing song Real Z is mine. next year. Look, we all had a lot of fun tonight, but really, just remember, this was not a strong vacation movie. It wasn't a strong comedy, even on its own terms. And Chevy Chase is so repellent as the character, and as we learned about him through his misdeeds in real life as a person, there is no reason to find this movie not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's what you should have. That's what you should have said. Mr. Levine, please present your closing argument. Sing, please.
Well, I will say that I do lack in the singing capabilities.
So does he.
That didn't stop us, yeah.
My age has rendered me, more cautious with when I do stupid stuff, as opposed to youth, which does stupid stuff.
You hear?
Yet you came on the show.
Listen, can I be honest? I'm just desperate for affection, This movie is a sentimental moment to me because I was working at the MGM the nights that they filmed that Keno scene, and to see Sid Caesar walking around and know that he was, just one of the classics from the 50s and 60s, and he was still alive in the 90s, which gave me hope for living longer than I thought I was going to. I would like to say that it does miss a certain part of a particular favorite in the original Vacation and in European Vacation, where we do not get to see Beverly D'Angelo's breasts in this one, but you don't get to see them in Christmas Vacation either. But we do get to see a return of Christy Brinkley driving a Ferrari with a car seat and a kid in it. So we do get that nice little soft touch that brings you back to the original Vacation movie. I will just once again state that while this is probably my second favorite of all the Vacation movies, it is my favorite of all the movies based in Las Vegas, because of the fact that they did use all parts of Las Vegas. There was no sound stages like there are in so many of the ocean movies, whichever era you wish to pick on them. There's no CGI. There's no fake anything. It was all filmed in the real of Las Vegas. And when you look at it as a Las Vegas movie, or a Las Vegas Vacation movie that brings this cast forward, which, by the way, it has the best looking Audrey and Rusty of any of the four movies. So that's easy right there. So that wins. It just stands on its own as a great homage to the city of Las Vegas, to the sin and debauchery that happens in Las Vegas without going too far. And we get to see Clark steal a tourist group's van and drive it through the front of Wayne Newton's house. So how bad can a movie be if you get to drive a tour van through the front of Wayne Newton's house? Thank you very much.
Wayne Newton's real house?
That might have been a stage.
So we're back to the sound stage.
I hope, but I do know from reading the notes on the DVD, because that's those old round things that you put into a machine to play a movie on.
I've heard of them.
Yes, yeah. They make great mobiles out, wind chime mobiles out in the yard, and they're also good for using as target practice.
You're gonna lose one juror here, I'll warn you.
They did actually use Wayne Newton allowed his house to be used for several of the scenes, except for the one where they crashed through the front wall.
Understandable.
Yes.
We can all understand why. Well, thank you both, members of the jury, Mr. Big Ben Haslar, Mr. Maynard Bangs, and Mr. Don't Think Unnatural Thoughts About Your Cousin, Ryan Luis Rodriguez. You have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
Right this way. My old pop used to tell me that the best way to become a millionaire with Vegas was to start as a billionaire.
Classic bailiff wisdom.
No, but it makes you think, too.
There was the old joke about the guy that drove to Vegas in an $80,000 Mercedes, gambled, had a great weekend, and left town in a $120,000 Greyhound bus.
Okay, guys, what are we thinking? Ben.
Yeah, I'm probably the closest thing to a fan of the vacation movies in this jury, and I'm not even that big of a fan of them, honestly. I think the first one sort of has its moments here and there. European Vacation is abysmal. Christmas Vacation I like a lot, and then this one's kind of a weird.
That's just because you grew up with it.
Yeah.
No, Christmas Vacation's good. The original one's good. European Vacation does suck. That is true.
It does suck. There's like 2 funny scenes in it, but yeah, we're not
it's
here
a
to talk
bummer
about
because it's Amy Heckerling, and this is the movie that she did right after Fast Times at Ridgemont High. You would expect something a little better, but yeah, that movie sucks.
I think that this movie sets itself up very well. Like I look at these scenes and I'm like, okay, this should be funny. They just need the actors to sell it. And more often than not, they don't, which is a lot of problems with a lot of comedies. I do kind of appreciate the authenticity argument to it. I do get that feeling from it, especially from like the strip and things like that. And especially that joke about like the how to get to the rooms, because that I was glad to hear that was based on reality, because I've stayed in Vegas twice and that was like so true to reality, where they're just saying, hey, you got to go through the casino floor and turn left at this table, but not that table, and the first elevators you see are not the elevators you want. So perfect, so funny. So it does have moments here and there where it does shine, but it is a 50-50. I keep getting pulled both ways on it.
Yeah, I grew up on this movie. I mean, when this came out, I was 11 when it came out on VHS. And I can still distinctly remember watching it 3 times in a row. Looking back, I can't imagine what could have held my interest to watch it 3 times.
I bet Randy Quaid, as kids.
No, I did not like Randy Quaid in this movie at all. I mean, I was mainly into Beverly D'Angelo because she was such a fox.
Hell yeah.
But I mean, literally 3 times in a row, and I can still remember moments and lines, even with my memory. Like, before I sat down to watch this for this case, I kept on saying to myself, I won the money. I won the money. It's stuck in my brain. And watching it again, I'm like, why did I like this movie? Like, there's a joke at the Hoover Dam that is a dam joke that is deficient compared to, say, Beavis and Butthead Do America, which has a very similar joke. Whereas Randy Quaid says, yeah, where can I get some damn bait? Beavis and Butthead has the line, is this a goddamn? Which is probably the funniest damn joke I could ever think of. And it was just such a bummer that they did not hit a similar level of quality. And something that I also noticed is that the kids are 14 in 1983, and they're still underage in 1997.
Oh, their ages
There's
are all
some
over
kind
the
of
place
time
throughout the
warp
series.
going on there at the Griswold house.
Rusty's
Rob, I
way
want to hear what you
younger than
think.
Audrey in Christmas.
It was kind of defended as being not a comedy, and to me, the strengths are the comedy. The problem is, it's not Chevy Chase. Everything Chevy Chase touches in this movie turns to crap, and that's why
I love the bagged milk. That's
kind of funny. That's a little funny. Also, him saying, "I don't even recognize you anymore." That stuff kind of lands. But like, he's just a jerk, and the family, when they're all on their own, all do better. I love Rusty's story. I was really bored until we got Wayne Newton and Rusty's story, and like, your regular table, Mr. Papa Giorgio. Like, it's been a night. Like, what the hell? It's
and
a great
joke about like
gimmick.
expensive to have an entourage.
There's something there to, if Clark had stuck with his son, he could have rubbed off on his success and had the vacation he wanted. He failed to have the vacation he wanted because he abandoned them. The film never seems to realize that, and they never have that realization in conversation. Like, they could have gone back and won all their money with Rusty, right? Like, apparently he can't lose. But the film doesn't care. So there's no lesson learned. I agree with Schlenzo on that. There's no lesson here. It's funny because Wayne Newton's hilarious.
Are there lessons in the other ones? I mean, Christmas Vacation, maybe.
The other ones aren't on vacation. The other ones aren't on trial anyway.
I prefer
but
Wayne
there's a strong
Newton
chance.
in License to Kill. I think he's actually better in that than he is in this.
Listen, Wayne Newton needs the work. But it doesn't matter whether it works because there's nothing saying that the other ones are good. The other ones have not been on trial here, so we don't know whether they'd be good. Frankly, I'm not. The only one that sounds like it would get past us is the first one, because Christmas sure as hell wouldn't.
Christmas is awesome. What are you talking?
Terrible.
How dare you?
Horrible.
How dare you?
Watched it this year. It's awful.
I watched it this year too, and it was good.
terrible.
You're out of your mind.
And I would have to watch the first one, but the first one, I believe they do have to stick together and finally get assertive, and they all have to go into the park together in order to get the rides they want.
No, in the first one, they are all kidnapped by their father, who takes the guard at gunpoint and takes them into the park.
No, well, then maybe the first one's bad too. You know, what can I say? It might be shit. We haven't gone through it yet, but this is the one that's on.
Okay, let's start locking it in, guys. Rob, since I know which way you're leaning, I might as well put you first.
I'm not sure, because I enjoyed the film while watching it, but I didn't hear the arguments I want to hear in defense. Mostly it was like, it's a time capsule or love letter to Vegas while also being an expose. Why would they self-fund a critical hit piece on them? Like, hey, come to Vegas, we ruin your lives, and you take $22,000 in debt. Why would they fund that? And Schlenzo was kind of speaking my language on a lot of things he did say, which I don't think a lot of it got, turned around, like the lack of personal growth that any of them shows, or how fucking annoying Randy Quaid is. So today, based on the arguments, I'm going to go guilty.
Ben?
Which is awful, because I love Beverly D'Angelo.
She doesn't love you, though.
Such a fox. Oh, my God. Ben?
Well, I hope you guys do the right thing, then.
I stick by my guns. I think this is a 50-50 film, but I actually did hear what I wanted to hear from the defense as far as some of those things that really did work. Like the dam jokes, those were very authentic to Hoover Dam if you visited. And the Papa Giorgio stuff, so friggin' funny. The war, the flip a coin, pick a number casino that they end up with, that was funny.
Guess which hand is my favorite out of all of them.
No, pick a number is because there's no accountability in pick a number. No, exactly.
3? No, 7.
Yeah, he should have to write it down. That's the joke.
So those small moments tip it just barely from guilty. Not good, not the best of the vacation films. Probably better than European. Not guilty, though.
Okay. Since we're split right down the middle, it's up to me to come in with a clutch and be the deciding factor. I love being in this position. It's not agonizing at all.
And remember, if I lose, it was rigged and there was jury tampering.
Yeah, that's what everybody says. Get out of the room! Okay, guys, if this was 1997, I would be sitting here and going, it's innocent. It's the greatest movie ever made. But we're not, and it's not.
Oh, no.
So, I'm gonna have to go. I'm sorry. Guilty.
Beverly! Who should we go out there and tell?
Oh, we'll tell
Brian.
that very handsome judge.
Thank you,
He
Brian.
needs his ego stroked.
Not just the ego, Ben.
Easy now.
Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of the People versus Vegas Vacation, we find the defendant bankrupt of being a bad movie.
I
The verdict is so rendered. Vegas Vacation is hereby found guilty of being a bad movie. Wayne Newton and Beverly D'Angelo are free to go. No charges are being pressed. However, the rest of the cast will have their heads crushed in a vice grip.
Wait, what? Oh, no.
Wait, I want to press something against Beverly D'Angelo.
She's free to go, so.
Damn.
We tried to be PC, but it just didn't last the whole episode.
Oh, we lost it a while back, actually.
I think it was like episode 1 where we...
No, just in this episode we lost it.
Oh.
No, we're waiting. We're waiting on Belvis. We're waiting.
Oh, here we go. Benvis.
I can't do Elvis. Hello, this is Honda Hunt, the knockoff of Chevy Chase, much more popular in the Japanese countries, if you believe it or not.
I
Mr.
don't.
Dylan J. Schlender, you lost this case. I'm sorry to break it to you. What'd you think of that?
What? I
Feel
thought I
like
won.
doing a Chevy Chase impression. Oh, you won. I'm sorry.
This interview seems confused.
Yeah, jet lagged.
I'm very off kilter, just like the real Chevy Chase. If you can't
So this one kind of landed in my lap, and I had an expectation of it being pretty bad because I really despised European Vacation, and I said, well, if this one's worse than European Vacation, this would be the easiest case I've ever had. But you pop it on, it's an hour 30. It's remarkably inoffensive compared to European Vacation, and has some really funny bits. So I was like, hey, actually, this is pretty good, So I put up the best case that I could, really focusing on Chevy Chase's deficiencies. But I mean, this has to be one of the least offensive movies we've done in a while. So I could maybe even watch it again one day. And so thank you, Brian, for the good case, man. And I'll see you guys at the post trial.
Now you have won this case. Oh no, wait, I got that backwards again. I'm sorry. What did you think of that verdict?
I think the verdict sucked. I think the jury was tampered. I think the jury has no taste or style. No, but it is a bad movie, and I did watch it again prior to recording, and I actually sat and took notes, and I was sitting there watching it, and I was remembering some stuff that I remember that I saw, and then there was some stuff I had completely forgotten about, and then I also realized, oh my God, it's over. It was really short.
That's a great thing to say about a movie.
And I'm actually kind of glad it was short because it had really run out of stuff, thankfully, at that point. Yeah. But yes, it is. It is a very having lived and worked in Las Vegas during the time that it was filmed, it is a sentimental movie to me because that's the Las Vegas that I lived in. That's the Las Vegas that I worked in, and that was basically. It's going to be hard for me to ever hate the movie.
Well, that's it from the happiest courthouse. I should have done Benvis. This is Honda Hunt. Believe it or not, I'm Honda Hunt and you're not, so I don't care. Let's go back to the post-trial analysis. Gosh, I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay.
He was Chevy Chase and he's not, then you have to be Honda Hunt and I am.
Oh, that's so
that
great.
That was worse than Ben the Martian. I should have done Benvis. I hate being cornered into the interview.
You weren't at all. You weren't even cornered. You had all night. We could have edited it out, but I'm glad you just went for it. And I think I walked out of watching the movie willing to go a little bit more to it, but yeah, I don't know. To me, the bottom line is the family stronger apart. So the movie never answers the question, why should they get back together? And there has to be a reason. It can't just be, oh, we're family.
Well,
there has to be a reason to be family. Otherwise, you split up.
Anyway, the movie's over, Maynard. You got to calm down. And resume your hosting duties.
We'll never answer the important questions of the movie. Okay, go ahead. But fun trial. Now, Brian.
No, but the movie's bad. That's why it doesn't answer the question, though. You're like worried about why it doesn't answer the question. It was ill-equipped to answer the question. That's why it was guilty.
Not every movie has to answer a question. It just has to occupy our minds for the time that it asks us to.
Oh, that's far too low a bar. Everything would get out of here.
Kids busy
so, Brian,
mommy gets a drink.
What keeps you busy? What do you do when you're not here and you're not putting movies on trial?
Well, I've never done that before, so that was fun.
Good first try.
Yeah, well, I don't think I'll try again. I am. So my primary thing is I am the host and producer of the Pipes Magazine radio show, a podcast for pipe smokers and pipe collectors, and it's all thing pipes and pipe tobacco related. And at the time of recording this, episode number 599 has just gone out.
Whoa, tremendous.
For those of you that do podcasts, that's 599 weeks in a row of a brand new show every week without ever missing a week for 599 weeks.
Damn, we are impressed.
It is very impressive. It's such a good show.
And a different shirt every episode.
And I've never worn the same wardrobe twice for it.
I told you, I knew it.
I also
99 different shirts.
I mean, listen, I have the perfect face for radio. I have the face that's launched 1,000 lunches. So,
but do you have a different pipe for every episode, Brian? That's what people want to know.
No, I wish I did, but I limit myself and my pipe collection to, well, the limit keeps getting bigger. But no, in fact, I tend to smoke pretty much the same pipes while I'm recording because they're easy to hold on to and I can flop them on the desk while I'm while I'm recording.
Now, my friend Ben is looking to get into pipe smoking. What is a perfect starter pipe that will look really cool for him and help him strike up conversation?
So I would tell your friend Ben to go on to a website called smokingpipes.com. They're probably the largest online retailer of pipes and tobaccos, and start looking at Savinelli or Peterson, two brands that have pipes that start out in the $80 range and go all the way up to a couple $100 each, and find one that's in that $80 to $120 range that looks like it would be comfortable for him and looks like the style of what he imagines himself smoking a pipe. And then buy the pipe.
An important step.
Yeah, and there's a few little accessories you need. You need a tamper, and you need a lighter that is not a torch lighter. So you need one that's a soft flame, like a Bic or I use a brand called DeJeep. They're $2 each. You need a tamper.
Cheap.
Yeah, DeJeep or DeJeep. Try that. I can't say that.
You tried Grumbly Grumblerson.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever you said. And then you need some tobacco, and the tobacco is, the tobaccos are wide ranging in different styles and tastes and flavors and experiences. And you just need to try a whole bunch of styles until you figure it out. There's a lot of good YouTube videos on how to learn how to pack and smoke a pipe. In my show over the years, I've given hints and tips and tricks, but honestly, packing a pipe is much better to see it than it is just to hear me talk about it. If you buy the pipe from Smoking Pipes and you don't like the way it feels, as long as you haven't put it in your mouth or put flame to it, you can also return it to them and pick a different shape or a different color or a different style.
How do they know that you didn't put it in your mouth?
Honor system.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not so much worried about that, but the minute you put a flame to it, they'll know.
Yeah.
Well, that
Is there a good,
I understand.
Starter episode for your podcast?
Episode 1.
So I always tell people, especially if they're starting now, it's a daunting task to look at 625 to 628 hours of recordings to listen to. So start with the current one and then go back and cherry pick the earlier ones and get caught up that way. Go back through, maybe you're more interested in pipe making or the pipe, and you're more interested in the tobacco, but go back through the old ones and get caught up, but stay current with the new ones. Because in the newer ones, for example, I'm going back and revisiting Pipe Smoking 101 in a little bit more detail on different techniques or styles or different shapes of pipes. I'm getting more detailed than I did 10, 12 years ago when I did the first round of Pipe Smoking 101.
I'm going to throw a hardball at you. If you're familiar with sake, the Japanese alcohol, is there a tobacco that pairs well with that? This has actually been a question that's come up on our show before.
So it depends if the sake is plum-based or rice-based. And you're going to have... So the rice-based to me is a little drier, and the plum-based is a little more sweet, if I understand sake and the... It
varies. Yeah, some are like umami-esque. But yeah, plum wines would definitely probably pair a bit better, would you think?
So what I like to do is I like to contrast instead of complement. So if I was doing the rice version, which is a little drier, less sweet, I might take on a more sweeter tobacco, but one that doesn't have one that has natural sweetness and not a artificial sweet flavor. So I would start in a red or orange Virginia based tobacco where there's a higher sugar count in the tobacco, and then do that with the rice wine, with the rice versions of sake. And that's going to be more traditional. If you went into the plum versions that are a little sweeter, you might want to go on a little drier side. And I don't like these types of tobaccos, but you may. They're called English tobaccos, and they have this smokiness from them because of one process leaf that's in it. So it's got a little smokiness to it. So it contrasts well with the sweetness.
That'd be Latakia. English blends are my favorite. We're kind of the opposite, Brian, because I don't really care for Virginias, and I know that's like all you smoke.
Yeah, I like Virginia. I like Periques with Virginia, and I like Virginias with Periques. But other than that, I'm fine.
Oh, absolutely wide open.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
No, I like the recommendation of doing the Red Virginia for the sake. Now that I'm thinking about sake, actually, that would pair pretty well with it.
Yeah, I like to. So I never try to get. You don't want your mouth experiencing too much of one style of flavor when you're comparing, food or drink and smoke, or if you're comparing a what do you want to drink with your smoke. And this works for cigars as well. It's the same concept. You want stuff that's going to complement and go well with each other, not work together, because otherwise your mouth just gets inundated with too much of one style and you can't taste the differences between the two.
Yeah. And Brian, apart from your podcast, I don't know if everyone knows this, you run the biggest pipe show in America. Well, maybe it's not the biggest in America, but the biggest one in Vegas.
Yeah. We are the, to the best of my knowledge, we are the second largest pipe and tobacco collectors show. It is in Las Vegas. It's in October this year, 11th, 12th, 13th. I better double check that. Because I got to make sure I've got plane tickets. It's called the Las Vegas International Pipe Show. We took over an existing pipe show and rebranded it. Yeah, it is October 11th, 12th, and 13th. It's at the Palace Station, which is kind of fun for me because when I lived in Las Vegas, the Palace Station is primarily a locals casino. So it's a little more low key, little more, priced better. It's somewhat reminiscent of the bad locals casino in Vegas Vacation, except this one's nice and clean and safe. And it's a Thursday through Sunday kind of event where we will have, last year we had 430 pipe smokers that came from all around the world, including we had China, Japan, Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Italy, Greece. I'm going to miss a few in Europe because there was also somebody from France, Denmark, Germany, England, Canada. So it's an international event, and we're all there for 4 days of hanging out together, smoking. And then on Saturday and Sunday, there's we open up the showroom part where there's vendors and exhibitors that have stuff to buy, sell, and trade. And one of the things I love about Vegas is not only do we have smoking hotel rooms, we have an entire smoking floor of the hotel that we kind of take over. But the ballroom that we have, all 12,000 square feet of it, is open for smoking anywhere. And the casino's open for smoking anywhere. So it is a smoke-filled week.
That is awesome.
Sounds like a destination for you, Schlenzo.
That's the dream. That's the dream. Are there any carvers or vendors that are making it this year that you're particularly excited about?
So I don't have a lot of them confirmed yet because we're still at this time
You're gonna have to come back and catch us up then.
Yeah, we're 7 months away.
That's true.
Hey, that's too long.
I tell you what, if you get Yacano from Italy, he's my favorite carver. I've got like 12 of his pipes. I will go to the show if you get him.
Have a restraining order out against you.
We do. So last year we did hire a full-time security guard to be in the room. Mm-hmm. And it was primarily for all of my fans trying to harass me. I mean, all the enemies trying to harass me. It was just so that we have our wives work the front desk in the check-in, and we wanted a security guard up there instead of our wives because you want to. Here's how you piss off a show organizer. Complain that the front desk staff was not nice at check-in. That's going to go over real well. You're not going to get, I know who you are too. You may not get to come back next year. Tonino, which I have one of his pipes, Tonino makes fantastic pipes for the price. And I would have more, but I have one of them that is actually a very magical pipe. and every other one that I've had has not smoked as well as this one magical one that I have. So, yeah, I've had that. God, I've probably had that pipe now for 20 years. And
I used to have a magical pipe back in college.
Stop that.
But now, Brian, we always ask for recommendations from our guests for movies that you think people should see. So what is a movie that you think people should see?
in reality, you want real movies,
Yeah.
I mean, actual really great films.
Yes.
Yeah, anything that you want to recommend. It could any movie you want to recommend.
Okay, so I am I did a lot of television and film work in college, so I look for there's two movie styles that I like. One style is eye candy. Doesn't require you to think. It's just to entertain you. So Vegas Vacation falls in that. Indiana Jones movies. I am old enough that I have been to each one of the Star Wars movies on or before opening day in the theaters. All 9 of them.
Nice.
I like all of them, even the ones that suck, and figure out which ones those are, because
we have figured it out.
We know.
that's your opinion, and you're welcome to it. Because as I say on my show, I'm the leading expert on my own opinion, and I'm allowed to say that as long as my wife's not nearby.
Well, we record, so
yeah. I will highly suggest there's, in fact, I'm probably going to watch it again because I really do enjoy it. There's a movie with Sean Penn called I Am Sam.
Oh.
And if you haven't seen it, it's a small budget. It's about an autistic an autistic adult that grows up and has to raise a child. And every message in it is based off of Beatles songs because Sam, played by Sean Penn, is a Beatles fanatic. So every message in there is based off of a Beatles song. It's got a great soundtrack of re-recorded Beatles songs by current performers. This movie's probably 10, 15 years old now. But look for I Am Sam. It's brilliant writing. It's brilliant acting. They actually have some actual autistic people that are some of the actors that Sam interacts with. So watch that. That's real. If you haven't seen it, the best comedy that has ever graced the silver screen is Blazing Saddles. And if you haven't seen it, your parents have done you wrong. Your brain has not been properly developed or punished. So you need to watch Blazing Saddles.
Don't blame it.
You hear
Remember,
that, Mom?
we were born in a post Blazing Saddle society.
I was too, just barely. No, I wasn't. I was born before it. Sorry.
You see, we don't get to go through that. We don't get to go through that trial by fire.
Yeah. And then once a year with my my family's Jewish all the way back to Moses. In fact, with the Egyptians, I want reparations from the Egyptians, and I want back payment on all the work we did to build the pyramids. But we can't get it. If you haven't, I watch Schindler's List once a year just to remind myself of the atrocities that humans continue to do to each other. And in reality, we're all humans. And if we just act as all humans together, but yeah, watch Schindler's List. If you haven't seen it, it's one of, it kind of hits home for me. I had a branch of my dad's family that did not make it out of Poland. So,
oh, geez.
Yeah, there were 4 siblings and 3 made it out. 1 didn't. So those are, those are 3 completely different movies that are.
They are. I didn't think any of them counted as eye candy, but they must have been the other genre that you like.
No, Blazing Saddles is eye candy, and of course,
I think it's a thinker.
All right, the greatest eye candy movie ever is Raiders of the Lost Ark.
But it's a good one.
That's a solid one, yeah.
And all the Star Wars movies,
and Vegas Vacation. With
Vegas Vacation
as far as D'Angelo goes. Schlenzo, what is your recommendation?
I don't have anything to recommend that's nearly that good or even on topic. But as you guys know, I tried to stay on top of the Justice League DC animated movies, but a few have kind of slipped past me over the last year or so. And so I have to say, from 2023, I kind of enjoyed it. It wasn't great. It was Justice League War World. It's told in 3 short stories. We see Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman go through an individual, unique adventure. The standout story, though, is Superman's, where he's playing Agent Clark Kent, investigating a UFO sighting in the 1950s in rural America. It's very redolent of the Twilight Zone, and it's even in black and white. And it was a lovely little segment. The end of the movie is a bit of a surprise, and clearly DC is setting something up, something big. So I immediately went on Wikipedia, and it turns out the next movie is Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1. So I think that's a clue.
All right. Yeah, I'm glad you stay up on top of that. I mean, at least they're still doing something in their animated branch.
Well, if I don't know how many parts Crisis on Infinite Earths is going to be. If it's probably going to be pretty sizable. Oh, just 2? That's pretty sizable, though.
2 is sizable?
I think 2 is sizable. Normally, they only make 1 movie at a time.
Now, I'm really proud of my recommendation this week, because it's about time we introduced a little class and culture to this podcast. Obviously, all eyes were on Beverly D'Angelo this week, and based on some of her projects around the time of Vegas Vacation, it's no surprise she agreed to return to the franchise. As my recommendation this week will show, a film she starred in the year prior, Widow's Kiss from 1996. A recently widowed father enters into a new marriage with a very attractive, also recently widowed woman who really knows the meaning of "Till Death Do Us Part." Ooh, that should have been the tagline! Now, this movie is tropey, trope. It doesn't do a single thing to surprise you, and the only thing elevating it from the likes of a Schlenzo recommendation is Beverly D'Angelo. But that is why you are here, and trust me, you will not be disappointed. Now, I ain't saying she's a gold digger, but she's murdering all her rich husbands. This is a great vehicle for D'Angelo, showing a very different side to her than we get to see from the sweet, passive Ellen in the Vacation films. She fills the role to a T and almost makes you forget you're watching a TV movie. Although I don't know what channel was showing it, but whatever it was, I can tell you that channel was really cool. Widow's Kiss is currently streaming on YouTube. You fucking marks, go watch it on there.
What?
Brian,
no, it's got to be on Tubi. Come on.
Good, you could look for it. I think even Tubi's above this one. Ryan, what have you got for us?
My recommendation this week is another recent release, a French film from director An Hung Tran, 2023's The Taste of Things. Set in the late 19th century, it concerns a cook, played by the radiant Juliette Binoche, and her romance with a gourmet, played by a Frenchman who bears a passing resemblance to Harvey Fierstein. It's deliriously beautiful.
I love Harvey Fierstein.
And represents some of the most vivid food porn you are ever likely to indulge. Juliette, we're on a first-name basis, spends the first 15 minutes just preparing dishes. And while my tastes are that of a change-adverse adolescent, I was salivating the entire time, and I had a belly full of crappy popcorn and a Coke Icy. See? Adolescent. If anything, it makes me want to order a baked Alaska, probably from Cheesecake Factory. They have great cuisine, right? Anyway, The Taste of Things is, as of this recording, in theaters, and I have no idea where or when it will be streaming, but seek it out. I keep changing my second favorite film of last year from Godzilla -1 to The Boy and the Heron, but this one's going to stick until I see another great one.
What is baked Alaska? Some sort of cake?
It's a kind of pastry that has ice cream in its center, and they light it on fire, and the ice cream does not melt.
Whoa.
If you ever get to New Orleans, there's a restaurant called Antoine's that does baked Alaskan better than any place else I've ever had it.
Road trip?
I like it.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Everyone, let's meet in New Orleans. You're coming, Brian. You bring the pipes.
Okay.
Ben, what do you got? Send us on home.
For my completely on-topic recommendation, I'm going to go with another film featuring a capitalistic desert hellscape and say you should check out Dune Part 2. So on
Great
topic,
line.
I didn't even have to ask Maynard to connect those dots for me. I came up with that completely on my own. Don't listen to me. Dune Part 2 is everything I love about the theatrical experience. Incredible visual spectacle with seat-vibratingly deep sound. You'll watch it at home and you'll enjoy yourself, I'm sure. But if you didn't see it in IMAX, in all honesty, you wouldn't know what you were missing. Some artists just know how to utilize the capabilities of that format in a way that doesn't translate for at-home viewing. Or if it did, everyone would hate you. Damn, Maynard, with your cajillion-watt subwoofer watching Dune at 1 o'clock in the evening, we gotta sleep. It's so nice that Dune 2, much like the first one, is also accurate to the novel, more so than the film from the 80s. Imagine that. The story we loved as the novel, we wanted to see on the screen. It's so nutty, right? The only problem is it's the best film of 2024. We got it over with so early. And what do I have to look forward to now? Like Kung Fu Panda 4? I don't know. So, Maynard, spare your neighbors, Maynard, and don't watch a fan cam, Maynard. Buy your ticket ahead of time so you don't have to talk to anybody. Pour yourself one of those delicious sodas where you can choose what flavored syrups you want to add. Head to the IMAX for that cinematic experience that you just can't get at home, Maynard. And also stop
my seats at home also vibrate, but I can't.
Oh no!
I'm going to.
I think
go
we're
out of
not
the
on
details.
cue. Not on cue.
I think we're all out of time.
Oh, we are all out of show. Want to thank our guest Brian Levine for joining us. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
You said this was the last time, but that's a lie. We are getting you back. We're getting you back to defend or prosecute something. We will drag you out to New Orleans if we have to for Baked Alaska.
I may have to do a little bit more cocaine before I come on.
Or less. Whatever it is, the amount isn't right. But we hope everyone else,
3 episodes to find the right amount.
everyone else will join us again as well as the reels of justice keep turning.
Count it.
Papa Giorgio!
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.